Okay, John, we're going to get started with the teardown of your 6105. So, first things first, let's get the case opened up. All right, looks good. All right, now what we can do is take off your dial and we can check your dial date against your case back date and see if perhaps during the service or anything that's happened that may have changed. So you have a 2.7 here, so I would anticipate something like perhaps 2.6 or 2.5. We shall see. It's always fun to think about the story of the watch and what was happening during production. 2.4. Okay, so not so bad. What you do have though is a cracked spacer. So I have another. We'll put a new one in. Dial looks really good. 2.4. Okay, so April 72. All right, well, now we can begin with the full disassembly of everything. Dried up and moved. Take a really close look at your center pivot. Sometimes these bushings get blown out, and that leads to issues down the line. So we're going to take a very close look at that. Woo! All right, so that's definitely pushed out to the side there. Oh, I even see some hair. Okay, so there's your hacking lever. There's your escape wheel. Center wheel, bridge, cock. There's your center wheel. That seems very loose to me, and pushed a bit. Interesting. That should not be like that. That indicates that you're. Oh my, what is that? Alright, well, we're going to have to take another look at that too. Alright, so let's continue. Oh, you're missing a screw. Wow. You say you took this to Seiko service. That's a little crazy. Your hair is underneath this plate. I can see from here. You're missing a screw. You had a loose screw. Goodness, what were those guys doing? Unbelievable sometimes. All right, well, there's your wheel. No, look, wow. Your cannon pinion is just flopping around. Boy, that should not be like that. Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to take a very close look at your center wheel and your cannon pinion here. Being loose like that can lead them to be susceptible to wear in places that you're not expecting. So I'm going to take a really close look. All right. Well, that's why we're here. Make sure everything's good. Look at that metal wheel. Okay. Well, that's your movement torn down. We're going to rebuild your crown and stem, of course. We're going to jewel your lower mainspring arbor port jewel hole. I should just say lower mainspring arbor port, which is right here. And we're going to continue with the process. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, John. Well, we're out of the cleaners. I've done some initial checks of your components. Things overall are looking pretty good. I wanted to point out that we've made a few little upgrades. Not little, but they are little, but they're important. So a couple things. One is here on your main plate, and this is the lower mainspring arbor port jewel that we've discussed. And it's got a partner, which is the upper mainspring arbor port jewel. That's right here. But in addition to that, you might notice this little purple piece right here. This is the jewel, it used to be a bushing, that holds the what's called the fourth wheel. And the fourth wheel is what goes directly through the center of your movement and actually holds the second hand in the watch. And there's a gear that's part of that. I looked very closely at all of your pieces, and I always, inspect everything as closely as I can under my high magnification microscope. This bushing that was in here was really badly sort of damaged. It didn't look very good, and so I went ahead and jeweled this. This is a sort of permanent thing. This one looks fine. Your third wheel didn't incur any damage or any problems, so I left that as it was. It's not high speed. It goes rather slowly around, and so it doesn't really wear in the same way that, say, for example, the escape wheel would, or what is basically the second hand wheel. These two travel much more rapidly, especially this one, which is why it has a jewel to begin with, than the others. So you now have a new jewel. So now you have a increased jewel count to 20. So you have a 20 jewel movement, which is nice. So we'll get back to that in a moment. First things though, we got to get your movement back together. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's get that process started here. So go ahead and start with the train of wheels. Start this process with some lubrication. I went ahead and also checked your center wheel. It seemed to have been pushed out in a strange way when we were taking the movement apart, and I just wanted to be sure that it was in good shape, and it seems to be fine. I'm going to check it very closely as we get the movement running. There are some things we can do to make sure that everything is right, but for now it looks okay, so I'm not too concerned about it. Okay, let's go ahead, put your hacking lever in place. Oops. this is your mainspring barrel. I also looked at the pivots on your fourth wheel, and they looked fine, or the pivot on your fourth wheel, I should say, and your third wheel and your escape wheel. Everybody seems to be in good shape. Just gets a small drop of oil on its shaft. Okay, now your escape wheel. All right. All right, now put your bridge in place. And there it goes. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so when you put a new jewel in, sometimes you have to adjust the height a little bit as you get things put back together. So that's what I'm going to do. Adjust that jewel just a touch. Get that put into place. Come on. Work with me here. There we go. Okay. That's what I want to see. I want to see that lever move. Okay, there we go. Now we can check your balance, make sure it's ready to install. Give it one last look before we go in. Nothing here that shouldn't be. Looks good to me. All right, let's check it. Come on, give me some life. There we go. There we go. Some motion, we'll take it. It'll get better. Let's secure this. There we go. We are working back to a running state. All right, let's see how we did. Maybe we make some adjustments and check our work. All right, John. Well, quite a bit of time has passed since we reassembled your watch. Most of that time trying to find faults with why the numbers were so poor, and such an interesting combination of things. So in general, if there's an issue with say the hairspring or the balance or the components that are moving quickly, if we flip this over, you can see that the balance here is chugging along and moving as it should. That was clean. That was a beautiful signal. Everything was fine. It was running exactly as you'd want it to in terms of stability, but the amount of amplitude was far below what I would deem as a normal range for a well-serviced watch. And, I would consider this to be a well-serviced watch. The issue is the one I think that we had sort of identified early on, and that was there was some real wear in the central portion of the train of wheels. And it's interesting the cascade effect that has on how things are going to operate and the things you find as you go. Now, I had identified that when I did my close inspections under the microscope, your fourth wheel bushing, that is the bushing that holds this pivot, it's underneath of the watch now, was badly marred and worn. And, as you look more deeply, you see that, okay, well, that then gets replaced with a jewel. You expect the numbers to be good. And then you see that then doesn't resolve the issue. And so if you look at this really tiny little pin that's sticking out of this gear on this side of it, it is almost oblong. It's got it. You can see where it's been worn down by that action of that jewel, and it's a combination of both this and the bushing itself wearing each other. But the origin of that is actually this, and this is your center wheel. So the center wheel is held down, and you can see the cannon pinion here is actually attached. So this is the way it's configured in the watch, and this is held by a what's called a cock, or a one screw bridge, and this has been badly worn. And so the amount of lateral shake, the amount that I could pivot this thing side to side and back and forth, end shake and whatnot, that was really large. I could grab this part and you could watch that gear flip back and forth as I moved this side to side. Now, so that's worn, which means you have to be careful about where things are in the watch. So Now I replace this with a new one that's in there now that's running. And what had happened is that the actual jewel that holds this in place on the main plate was out of position. So as soon as I put in an unworn center wheel, I couldn't get the watch to actually run because it was totally out of whack. And so I actually had to move the position of your center wheel jewel in your plate. I had to change its position vertically within the train to get a new jewel to set, or to get a new wheel to set in place. Anyway, that's just part of the process. There's extra time involved in that, but it's not the end of the world. Your watch is running great now. I'm really happy with where it is. But it's funny, these are all central pieces. This piece fits, sort of on this piece, and they're a combination of components. They actually go together. And when one goes, there's bound to be another part that goes along with it. So now you have, within the stack of the central components of the watch, you have all new sort of, or at least all in good shape components that are in fact making the watch run as it should. So the reason that I have to go through this is that there's friction loss, right? So this is the first wheel, the center wheel is the first wheel that the mainspring barrel interacts with and pushes power through the watch. So if it's off, if it's rubbing, or it's out of alignment, or it's got an issue with wear, you're going to lose a lot to just downright, frictional kind of interactions that lead to issues as we go. And so that then can set things off from where they're vertical, everything should be in a vertical position. And if they're not, then they're going to wear. And so that's what happened to your fourth wheel. That's what happened to the bushing. So now you have a jewel, you have a updated fourth wheel, an updated center wheel, and a correctly positioned center wheel jewel. So now I'm convinced this is going to run and run well. Okay, we'll be back. We're going to keep going with putting the calendar works together. Okay, John, I made a little progress on your calendar side. I just wanted to show you how everything is working here. So this is your quick date, of course, and the setting. And hacking seems to be in good function, so we're going to cover this up with its plate and go ahead and get your date wheel put in place. Okay. Everything looks pretty good. All right. Now come on. Good. Good. Okay. Well, let's check your hacking. Yeah, that's working just fine. We go back in and we're functioning. Okay, good. So that is movement. Oh my goodness. Why am I having such an issue? Movement reassembled, ready to go. We're going to get your dial and hands back on, and then we'll reassemble your case. I am waiting for your crystal to show up. Ordered a new one for you, And of course the mail is slower than most things at the moment, so we will get your final construction as soon as that arrives. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get your dial and hands on, and we'll come back. Okay, John, we are here at the end, and finally the mail has come through, and we have your new crystal, which we're going to install now. So that goes right here. So with the 6105s, you don't have a chapter ring to align, so you can just put the crystal right in without the movement in, and then your inner bezel will snap on, and we're going to do that now. All right, so there that is. All right, now your click ball has escaped, but luckily I was able to retrieve it. It's not a big deal. These things happen. These cases have a sort of, less than ideal way of locking the click ball down. And so you don't have to worry about it coming out in normal function, but if you ever take the bezel off the watch, you definitely want to look to be sure that the click ball is safe and secure. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and install your bezel and just push right down and click that into place, capturing your click ball. Perfect. That feels really nice. Okay, good. All right, so the next thing we got to do is put your movement in your case. So we're going to do that now. Add a little bit of lubrication here. And that locks perfectly. There's your movement retaining ring. Now you put your winding bridge effectively. All right. Okay. Number 3. Okay, get your case back gasket in place. Okay, make sure everything's clean. No dust or debris. And here's your winding weight. Perfect. And now, the last step is your case back. And with that, we are finished with your 1972, 6105. All right, well, let's go through our final checklist here. Make sure that you see all the things that have transpired with your watch. So, you know, overall, it's just a lovely watch. It is in such nice shape. You know, it has really great case lines, good brushing. The surface is so nice. We've gotten you back into a really nice shape, I think. And everything just functions exactly as it should. Your movement is running really well. We've had to make some corrections and changes to things to ensure that it's running right. But overall, we're able to do that without too much problem. You know, case and seals, things like that. Those are case seals, and here's your really stiff seal for your crown. That is a brick. It should be a donut that's squishy. New case seals, new crystal. This was your broken case retaining, or your spacer for your dial. This is your offending jewel. This one was in pretty bad shape. This is a bushing, I'm sorry. I replaced this with a jewel. It was so bad, in fact, that it would actually stop the watch. So that's really not what you want. So that's coming back. You can look at that if you have a microscope or a good magnifying glass. Center wheel, fourth wheel, those are being replaced just as a matter of course, because with the damage that was done to this, it resulted in damage to the pivots on this and of course this. So those parts are being replaced with new. Anything else? Here's your bushing for your upper mainspring arbor port. We jeweled the upper and lower mainspring arbor ports, and that's the bushing that is replaced now with a jewel. So three new jewels, bunch of new components, and of course all your old seals and crystal and things. All right, well, John, it's been a real pleasure. I hope you get a lot of use and life out of the watch. It's a real stunner. I really enjoyed working on it. So thank you very much, and I'll be in touch. Thanks for watching.